All right, so welcome everybody. This is our sort of second series, third session. Really excited for this one. Going to be a lot more practical. We have Simon Mead from Hudl, who's here to do a nice practical presentation for us. The goal here is to keep this one a little bit shorter, so we'll only go for an hour. And I think Simon and I have mapped out quite a few things that Simon's going to walk through, just in terms of really making the most out of Hudl, given where we kind of are with the structure. That will include some kind of a big picture overview, some more nuance in there around different ways to capture footage. And then I think definitely the part that I'm really excited for is how do we actually use the footage to facilitate kind of learning conversations. And that's across a couple contexts. That's individual, small group, online, in person. I think in the big picture sense, I suppose what I'm trying to do is help us build our kind of toolbox, our coaching toolbox beyond the court. And, you know, relationship building, performance analysis, skill development. This is all part of, you know, helping anyone who's a coach just continue to build up their repertoire of skills. So Simon is a guy who I've known for quite some time. And, you know, we probably first met, 2014, 15?
Yep.
Simon. And
back a few years, did a bit of writing.
You spoke the first time, you've spoken a few times at the BBNZ national conferences. You work with anyone who's anyone in basketball in New Zealand, from a Hudl performance analysis perspective, but you obviously also work with a lot of other teams and other kind of contexts as well, school, professional, club, representative. So just really, you know, Simon's just a wealth of knowledge. So I think we'll really all benefit from having him here. So thanks for joining. I wonder if maybe before we go, maybe each of you can just introduce yourself so, you know, Simon can put a name to a face. So I don't know, Kane, maybe you can just go name and who you're coaching for Harbour.
Hi, Simon. I'm Kane. I coach the under-17 B team for North Harbour. This is my second year at North Harbour. It's helped me learn a lot, and I'm starting to get into the performance analysis, and I'm studying at Sport and Rec at AUT, so I'm going into that paper next semester.
Yeah,
nice. Really cool. That's awesome.
Cool. Andrew, Horks.
Hey Simon, I'm Andrew, also second year coaching at Harbour, coaching Harbour Maroon this year. Did the performance analysis paper at AUT. Loved that one. So looking forward to this session.
Cool.
You might have recognized Andrew from a few Basketball New Zealand calls. He did some commentary during secondary school nationals for BBN.
Cool.
Yeah. And he runs our competitions for Harbour. Andrew Mackay.
Hello, I'm Andrew as well, and I also have done that paper at AUT. I did that like 2 years ago. It was really fun doing sports code and stuff. I coach the under 15 white or C team, and I assistant coach with the 17As.
Cool, that's awesome.
Yep. And Gareth?
Yeah, I coach the under 15 girls, and I'm also Carmel College coach. So I've used Hudl before with Carmel College and last year with the under 17s when I assisted Dylan. And we've had a few chats, softball as well.
Yes, of course. I thought I recognized the face. Good.
Cool. Well, Simon, it's all yours. Take it away.
All right, cool. I am just going to share my screen and we're going to jump straight into it. So hopefully you guys can all see that. That's all kind of appeared and come up. Vince, give me a little nod. You got all that?
Yep, I got it.
Perfect. Cool. So what I'm going to dive in is just to kind of real quickly start with a recap on understanding the Hudl ecosystem. And I think it's really important for you guys as coaches to understand how Hudl's built and how Hudl's designed. Because if you can understand how Hudl's built and how it's designed and how things are meant to work, you can get a really good handle on how we can manipulate things, we can use things for our advantage, and we can really harness what it is to have a platform around this. A real quick spiel from me, I'll keep it short. Really excited to be working with Vince and you guys. You know, I'm a big passionate believer of video and video analysis. We're really excited to get this in your hands and for you guys to start using it and using it well. So again, it's really important to understand, you know, why we built Hudl and how Hudl works. So there's 4 key processes for analysis. So when we talk, either I'm talking the All Blacks, New Zealand football, New Zealand basketball, we talk about the 4 stages. So the first stage is capture. The second stage is you're analyzing or tagging or coding, right? And then it's this kind of review and building presentation phase. And then the last piece of the puzzle is this kind of sharing component. And we're going to dive into each of these, but it's really good for you guys to understand the 4 pillars, if you would call it that, of analysis. So capture, analyze, review and build, and then share. So this is kind of what we talk about when we talk about analysis. So capture is the big one. You can capture in short off anything, but one of the big things a lot of people are capturing off are mobile devices, all right? We've all got smartphones and iPads and tablets. We've got access to these. So one thing that us at Hudl have really pushed is our iOS app. Now, I know there might be a few Samsung users out there thinking, why don't they build it for Android? If you're lucky enough to get your hands on an iOS phone, iPad or iPad mini, these are great tools to record off. One, because what you can do is you can record within the Hudl app and you can have that video automatically upload. What we're trying to do is we're trying to make it easy for you to capture training video, of warm-up video, of game video, of scrimmages, anything you can. Just get your camera out and capture. And it's simple as opening up the Hudl app, hitting the record button and recording. And this is a piece of video at Nationals a couple of years ago, just recorded off an iPad. And, Vince has used an iPad and you guys will be familiar, but, I'm only standing, a couple of meters up with a little wide angle lens on an iPad, and we can produce some really high quality video. So hopefully you guys can see that and think, man, like that's really good. We can use that. So, that's where we're really pushing. If you are thinking of making investments or you're looking at getting something from an analysis perspective, we can't, stress enough, an iPad mini, things like this are really, really good tools. If you are looking at, we've got some really, really good kit sets, whether it be for an iPad, even just an iPhone, a little tripod, some wide angle lenses, some zoom lenses. So I did a little work with New Zealand football. I actually coached the futsal team for New Zealand for a long, long time, and working as their analyst. Between the standard zoom of an iPad, iPhone, a wide angle lens and a zoom lens that you can pick up pretty cheap, between those 3 lenses, I can film from near and anywhere, whether I'm at AUT, at a stadium, right up in the nosebleed section, or on courtside, just standing on a chair. If you're on courtside standing on a chair or on a bench, you will find filming through a phone or a tablet, you're quite zoomed in. So having that little wide angle lens can really get you that nice sort of half court. And Vince, you guys love your iPad. You guys have been using this quite a bit.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I think that when I'm not coaching, I probably use the iPad more. When I am coaching, we've lately been doing a little bit with Glory League, but we use the iPad. I mean, I will say that when we were anytime we do tours, particularly tours, New Zealand Nationals, when we were in the US running our tour, I mean, everything was done through Hudl, through the iPad, and automatic capture upload. So that was like fundamental to how we captured all of our games there. And now the challenge is just figuring out, from a super city perspective, which games do we use it for, and so forth. So it doesn't probably capture as many games as we do through Glory League, but it gets used. Yeah.
And I can't stress enough, as coaches, it's really just, if this is important to you guys and you value it, tap into your parents and just tap into your community, your team community. Who has an iPad? Who's currently got an iPhone? Who's got something with a little bit of memory? What can we do to kind of tap into your wider resources? Hey, can we borrow it for a game? Think of venues that have got good vantage points. And Bruce Pullman, for example, we know you've got a good vantage point there. So these are the sort of things that we just want you to think about as coaches when you're going to a game day. Oh, I might be in a school gym. Well, there's not really anywhere to film from. All right, do I maybe just throw the stepladder in the boot of the car? A step ladder in the boot of the car, all of a sudden you're up 1.5 meters, you're above the crowd, and you can film. So these are the little things to kind of think about when, as coaches, when you're packing the car before games.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So that's kind of the capture piece. I mean, anything you wanted to touch on quickly, Vince, before that? It was pretty short and sharp. I mean,
I'm pretty sure. Hey, Andrew Mackay, have you? I'm not sure if he's still there, but
I am here.
okay. You talked about using your phone a little bit to capture games. Did you get into that at all?
Yeah, I use my old Samsung phone to film games, and I just uploaded it. Well, I uploaded one game to Hudl, but I just use my old phone. It just works fine.
And that worked fine. Like you were able
As long
to.
as you, like you're saying, like if you're at Bruce Pullman, it's a piece of piss because you can put it up on the thing, like no problem. Just ask your parent to make sure it stays recording. Same with NSEC, it's easy, but like, yeah, as long as you have a good, like you're saying, if I had to do it in like a school gym, it would be very, very hard, but because I don't have a lens. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't be scared to, jump on Trade Me, and you can get these little magnetic lenses. Might cost you 10, 15 bucks. You can get little wide angle and little zoom lenses for phones. Again, good something a little small to have in your toolkit.
That's what I did when I was in the US. I bought a tripod, a different tripod, and digital lens, wide angle lens that clipped on. I bought one of those clip on ones, and that's been working.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah. And again, just you can get these little, it looks like a little cell phone holder that can screw into a tripod bolt. Again, 10, $9 on Trade Me. Really good little toolkits just to have in your toolbox.
Yeah. I would just also add, just as a last thing, like I find myself randomly just wanting to video at points when I didn't realize I wanted to. And so just having the tools. So like Kane and Andrew and like you guys, as you go along, it might be worth a short-term investment, just building up your tech on that side, just even just like the low cost lenses and the low cost tripods, because one day at a training, if your manager is there, get them to film like a scrimmage, like that stuff goes a long way.
What iPad would you recommend? Because I've got a tripod already, and I'm kind of trying to invest in a new iPad, but just any sort of iPad would work, or anything you recommend?
Yeah, anything would recommend. So I definitely think, you don't necessarily need the new iPad Pros, but if you get like, a secondhand iPad, 2 to 3 years old, that, is in reasonably good nick off Trade Me, with some decent storage, that's all you need. I don't say, don't buy a new one. The lenses are the same, the tech's the same. Don't go buy an iPad that's 4 or 5 years old, but one that's a couple of years old is perfect. So yeah, I rave about them. And then if you want, even iPad minis, from a recordings perspective, and still to have one-on-one meetings, are really good because they can fit in your pocket. So you can actually take them out on the court. They're really easy in your bag, and you can get little iPad mini holders. And the screen is still big enough that should you have a player or a parent help you film the game, an iPad mini screen still big enough for the parent to enjoy watching the game, through the lens. So yeah, that's a good advice.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. So the next phase I want to go on is this concept around sort of, analyzing and reviewing. So how do we analyze and how do we review? How do we build these presentations? So again, it's important to understand the Hudl ecosystem. And there's a little bit of terminology I just want to make you guys familiar with. So we talk about a video library. So every Hudl account has a video library. This is where all your video is stored. This is like your home page. We then have a video. Now this is a single video. A video could be something you got off YouTube. It could be a game. It could be a practice. It could be a scout. So in Hudl, we have 3 categories for a video. Video is either a game, it's either a scout, someone you're scouting, or it's a piece of practice. And a piece of practice might be something, again, you've got off YouTube, a training video, whatever you want. So you just got to have a category that's assigned to the video. Then we talk about tagging. And for you guys that have done the sports code course, this is like coding. Tagging and coding is essentially the same thing. From here, we talk about clipping. Now, clipping is your ability to manually clip out a moment of a video or to clip a pre-existing tag. Now, I may be confusing you a little bit, but you'll hear further in the presentation, this will all make sense. Tags is something you've specifically coded. A clip is something that you're using for a presentation. Okay. Then we talk about a playlist. A playlist is essentially a series of clips that make up a presentation. So when we talk about building a playlist, you're just putting clips into a folder or into like an envelope. That's your presentation. You'll also hear me talk about databasing. Databasing, in essence, is still a playlist, but it's just containing a large amount of tags of one area. So you might database all of your missed 3-pointers for the season. You might database, you know, all of your inbound plays for the last 3 games. So this is what we talk about. So just, again, won't drag on it too much, but a little bit about the terminology to help as we go through. So there's 3 ways for you to sort of analyze your video and build presentations, right? So the first way is just to build your presentation directly on the video. So you've uploaded a piece of training video or you've uploaded a game, and you might just directly draw and add notes directly to the video, and that's it, right? And get your players to review. So that's kind of step 1, or the easiest way. As we progress, the next way is to use the clipping tool. And this is now essentially clipping moments of video to build a playlist to present back. Now you might clip 10 second, 20 second, 30 seconds. You might have a playlist that contains 10 clips, 20 clips, 30 clips. But essentially, you're using the playlist function to then present that back.
Yeah.
The third option and the last sort of step is this concept of tagging, or for the sports code guys, coding. Actually going and tagging your game, tagging all the 3-pointers, all the 2-pointers, using our inbuilt tagging system or using Hudl Assist, and then going back and building your presentation. The reason a lot of teams like tagging is it's not until you look at 23 missed 3-pointers in a row do you begin to get an idea of the 3 or 4 you actually want to put into your presentation to highlight your point. And I'll dive through some examples of these. Does that kind of make sense, Vince? You can kind of see the 3 sort of pillars.
And you're going to go into more of these in depth,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Cool. So if we talk about just simplistic building a presentation, right? This is a Hudl account. I just have some LeBron James video. And what we can do is we can directly draw on this video, right? So at any moment, you're watching the game, you're watching training, you see something, you can hit pause. We can go back 5 seconds. We can play through again. We can find the moment we want. And we've got these drawing tools down the left-hand side. And we can actually just draw and add notes directly to the video. So this is really good if it's a piece of training video or you just want something quick and easy to highlight, or, you know, and what it does is it creates a little marker down here on the timeline that you can see. So what it means now is if we were to get our team to review this game or to go back through it, actually I'll add one more here, add a note, can drive underneath. You can see these markers along the bottom. So if we were to go back and rewatch these, we can use the next tool. And the next tool is this little one right at the end here. And what it will do is it will give you 5 seconds leading into when you first added your text or note. It'll automatically pause. You can hit spacebar, then you can click next when you next added a note and drawing. So this is just a really easy way to quickly go through all your moments you added. Here's the one we added before, drive underneath. I can hit next. And all we're doing is we're just skipping past all the dead time, you know? And over the course of a game video, you might have added 10, 20, 30 clips just drawn directly onto the video. So does that kind of make sense? Vince, does that make sense?
Is it possible to draw on a clip in a playlist?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, so and I'll show that next.
So I might come up with like 10 clips from the game. I just want them to watch those clips. And then in that playlist, I then go in and basically go through the same process.
Absolutely. And I'll jump into that right now. So that's kind of stage 2.
Cool.
So this is stage 1, video, draw, directly on video, job done. Okay, yeah. Cool. So now we look at this next step. And this is what you talk about the concept of clipping. Yeah. So same sort of concept. I've got my game video. And what we can do is down the bottom on the right-hand side, we can now clip video. So again, anytime you find a piece of video, we can hit create clip. So what happens is we find our moment. Cool. I can just quickly go back. Little 5-second back tool's quite good, create clip. Now what that does is that creates a 7-second clip by default. We can't change that. It'll give you 3.5 seconds either side exactly at that moment on the timeline. We can now click and we can now edit this clip. And you can change this clip and you can make it as long or as short as you want. And it's just as simple as dragging the blue bars, making sure you've got the piece of video that you want. So once you're happy, yep, I've got that, I can now rename this clip if I wanted. So it might be under drive or 2-point play or whatever we want, and I can go save. So what I'll do is, for the purpose of this, I'll just grab another clip. Cool. All right. So let's say this is another moment of the video. We're just looking, we're finding something that we want, and I can go create clip. Again, creates a 7-second clip. I can click on that and I can trim it. So just making you guys aware, understanding how the architecture of Hudl works. This is the concept of building a playlist. This left-hand, right-hand panel is our playlist builder. We can rename them. We can move clips up and down. We can put them in whatever order that we want, right? So now we're in a position where we can share that playlist. So,
hey, just quickly, Simon, any best practices around naming clips? You know, because I've gone through like my own transformation in terms of what I name clips, like particularly, you know, you want to try to give some identifying information in the title of the clip that helps you understand, because I found that once you start gathering 20, 30, 40 clips,
yeah, they want to go back and find them.
You need to be able to, sometimes you want to be able to find them. So any thoughts there?
Not really. I come from a football standpoint, so we just talk about the 4 moments of the game. So, you know, you think, you know, attack, defense, transition, you know, so it might be attack clip 3, attack clip 4, transition clip 1, transition clip 2. So they know that if they're going to present back, or, you know, transition clip 5 and 6 are really, really good, they're the ones I'm going to highlight. So it can help you find them. So yeah, just finding categories like that, I think, work. Yeah. So we're in a position now where we can kind of build this playlist. We can give it a title. And again, remember, any piece of video has sharing preferences. You can share it with one player, a group of players, or the whole team. What we're doing, players can also do, so they can create their own playlist as well, right? So when we come back, we've got our playlist. This is now a good time to kind of add our notes and drawings once we've created the playlist. So again, you've got your clip, and this is this kind of this review piece. So you're reviewing it, you're adding context around it, you're adding learning, right? So you can add some comments, you can pose questions, we can use the drawing tool, we can really start to bring this clip alive, all right? So you remember the 4 pillars? This is kind of pillar 3 now. We've done our tagging, we know what we want. Pillar 3 is now this kind of reviewing, slicking it up, making it good, putting it in the right order, bringing it alive before we share and review it. And again, even once it's in a playlist, we can still move clips up and down. We can put them in an order. We can add our notes and drawings. So this is the sort of position you would want to add. And again, we can, you know, think about potential questions you want to add. So the best thing about using a playlist is players can respond. You can pose questions. So especially if you're building a playlist for one player or a unit of players, don't be scared. This can be player-centered. What did you see? What's next? What could we have done better? Get them to draw on the video. Get them to add their comments on the video. So this is all things that we can think about as coaches. Really start to flip the classroom. Set them up, give them a task, give them a challenge, and then sort of set them to it.
Yeah, cool. Any
questions around that? Does that all kind of make sense? Hopefully some of you're like, yep, this is all pretty familiar and is good.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, what I learned from that was the drawing. Like I understood the tagging and the playlist sort of thing, but I thought the drawing was pretty good, and yeah, it just made me understand it more.
Yeah, and even us, just say, like, ask your players, draw where the space is, you know, and then they can hit reply, hit on the drawing tool, and they can then use their drawing tools to identify space or lines or channels or, you know, so these are all things you can do.
Cool.
Yep. Is this pretty standard for you guys? Or go ahead, Gareth. I think you were going to say something.
Yeah. At the moment, is it only writing and comments? Is there the ability to voice over video?
Not yet, unfortunately. That's a really good call. We have thought about it. It is a big request from a lot of coaches, especially in some sports. And yeah, watch the space. At the moment, unfortunately, no. There are some workarounds, but at the moment, yeah, it's just text, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think one of the things, just as a way of thinking is like, particularly with the drawing, I haven't used it. I'm similar to you, Kane. I really haven't used the drawing as much as I just tend to use the clipping and the creating of the playlists. But I think in terms of the drawing, it's trying to figure out what are the best ways to use it. And I think about spacing, both in terms of off-ball spacing on offense and then defensively help position. So particularly, where can someone be in help position? You think about like drawing the split line in the middle of the court and then identifying where the player is in relation to the split line as an example. I also think quite a bit about the concept of advantage. So identifying the point in a possession when an advantage has occurred, and then what were all the kind of cascading actions that happened after that. So I just think this is something we probably need to just continue to play with and find different ways to leverage the drawing to point out specific things that we think are really important.
Yeah, Vince, we actually used it to draw a line on their feet to show how they were marking the ball. Were they, shoulder to shoulder, or were they pushing them in a direction? And it really helped to show actually how much difference it made.
Man, that would make a lot of sense to me. I mean, just thinking about Matt's conversation last week, angling, what's the angle of what's your body position in terms of like pushing people in different directions? Hands, what are your hands doing? So I think lots of stuff there. Yeah, that's cool.
And to give you guys just some real basic fundamental kind of analysis, and I don't know the psychology in this, but everyone I talk to, there's kind of this unwritten rule. If you've got a potential point that you want to highlight, let's take spacing, right? For example, you're too bunched. Forgive my basketball knowledge, but let's say you're getting too condensed to one side of the court. The best way to kind of bring out that coaching point, what we do, and this is where tagging is really good, is find all the moments it's happened. Don't bombard players with them. Just find the best bad example. And what we talk about is one bad to three good. All right. Mm-hmm. So the best way to kind of build a playlist we talk about is find the worst one you can. This is us when we are bunched. Use the drawing tools, highlight it. And here is us when we are not bunched. Yep. Example 1, example 2, example 3. So we don't actually need to show players 10 bad. Show them 1, they get it. It's as clear as day. But then show them 3 good. Here's another example where we're, slightly different, but still good spacing. And another example. So this kind of concept of 1 bad to 3 good, 4 clips, 1 single point, same theme, is a really good kind of fundamental framework to use when trying to highlight points. Like, would you kind of resonate with that, Vince? Does that sort of make sense?
There's a ton of research that supports a positive to negative feedback ratio of 3 to 1. And some of it is kind of from a coach-athlete relationship kind of paradigm where people think about like, well, what's the most appropriate, like ratio of positive to negative comments. I think this is just a manifestation of that. I would also just say that like, just who likes watching themselves screw up all the time? Like people are way more responsive to like positive. And if you're going to do negative, you don't have to always single out them to demonstrate negative. You can use, there are issues around player learning in video that come back to the distribution of criticism. So if you're fairly distributing your criticism equally amongst the team, people are way more receptive than are they feeling singled out. So I think that's just the thing that we have to pay attention to, and more positive than negative is generally always good.
And I think even to highlight that, you might just find a clip of the opposition. Here's a clip of the opposition really bunched. Look how much space is around the court. And here's 3 clips of us with really good spacing. Yeah. So your negative has actually come from the opposition, but you're highlighting the same point within the same theme. So that's another good sort of thing to think about as well.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. So the next bit of the puzzle is this concept of tagging, right? So in your Hudl accounts, you have the ability to tag. Now, what tagging is using Hudl's inbuilt tagging system to tag a game. And again, guys, sports code, you just think of coding. It's almost like a pre-built code window for you. And so this is essentially what it looks like. So we can come in here, and I've already started this game. So when you have a game, it'll just say start tagging, or for my case, it says resume tagging. and it is essentially just a pre-built tagging window. And you can select the colors you want. You can choose what you want to tag. You can choose team stats, player stats. You can choose shot locations. You might not want to tag shot locations. Obviously, the more you want to tag, the slightly more time consuming it does. So it's just having a bit of a play around with what's feasible. And this is it. So let's say I'm going to resume tagging. I'm in a position, okay, and we're just going to say, right, blue have the ball. So I click on blue, and these are options. So there's 4 things that blue are going to do. They're going to have a 2-point, a 3-point, a turnover, a foul. So let's just watch this game now. All right, so boom, they put up a 3-pointer. Cool. So I can hit 3-point. I can hit 3-point make. And then all of a sudden, it says where they shoot from. They shot from here. What type of shot was it? It was, say, a catch and shoot. Again, you can skip these categories if you want. And then as you see, the coding template flips. It flips around. So now if we hit play, I can wait, and it is a white inbound play. And again, what are white going to do? 2-point, 3-point, or turnover. So we'll just kind of watch this, see what they do. Boom, all right, drove in the lane. Okay, so that was a 2 points. Just going to quickly see who got the rebounds. All right, cool. So we got the offensive rebound, so I can select that. Where did the shot go up? What type of shot was it? It was a drive. And cool, we've still got the ball. So I can hit play and carry on tagging. So hopefully you guys can see it's just kind of this 2 points. And it was potentially, I think this one was a defensive rebound. So I'm just trying to figure out, yep, there it is. Got it from here. Again, alley-oop, jump shot. We've got options here of what we do and we can play on. So you can kind of see how we've inbuilt it. And if you're ever using Hudl Assist or sending games to us, we tag off this exact template, right? But it's good for you guys to see what you can do, and you can do it yourselves. I talk to some coaches and they love it. They love systematically going through the game. Like anything, it's easy when you know how. It can sometimes take 3 hours to code your first game. It can be quite time consuming, but the more coaches do it, the more they enjoy it, the more they love it. And so I just think it's a good skill set for you all to understand and have and understand, to the point where you can actually add custom tags. So it might be a switch of the play. It might be a post-up move. So you can actually add in your own terminology, and you might think, okay, this is a good defensive shape tag. So I might just come down, hit custom. I haven't done a defensive shape, so I can type it in. And we can actually tag our custom features, our playbook or our play model. And we go for this. So I'll just do one more just for the purpose of this. So there we go, 3 points. And it was offensive rebound. The shot went up there. It was a jump shot. Hit next, and we can go from there. So this is tagging, right? So it gives you an idea of this kind of concept. Again, get rid of shot locations, get rid of type of shot, can speed up the process a little bit quick by deselecting them. I haven't got individual tags here, but we can actually add in the player. So if you've got your roster involved, we can add player tags, and we're there. And you can come back and you can do this later.
I think sorry, Simon, this is really where I think if we really want to take our analysis to that next step, and I think, Kane, you're probably right ready for this, in the sense of, if you can get your whole roster up, you can go through and do, you don't have to do every game, but do a couple games, 4 or 5 games. You then have a nice rich database, right? Because I'm sure you're going to talk about the stats element of this, right? Because this produces a statistical spreadsheet that gives you all the data, right?
I wish I knew this in sub-isolation. I did it all purely on paper while I was watching.
That's all right. We've been doing it mostly. I've been doing it by hand for years. Yeah. But I'm ready to take this next step as well.
Yeah. So, and then this is it. And I think, and again, your time poor coaches, just elongate what it is. If you think, well, actually, I've got a first team coach and assistant coach, do a half each. Or you've got a manager, do a third each. Actually, you know what? my captain, I coach an under 17, my captain's really good. My captain loves this sort of stuff.
Hmm.
Add him as a coach.
Yeah.
Get him to tag half a game for you, you know, so you can elongate what it is to kind of get your whole team involved. They can log in, hit resume tagging, and just tag from where you left off. So you can all contribute to this.
Mm.
So what it means, and we'll jump into this piece now, is we've now got these filters. So for example, I can come in here and I can select, right, I want the Hawks, and I want to look at all of their field goal attempts. Right, there were 3 tags that match this filter, and you know I can quickly filter through them. And it might be, right, here's a really good one I want to show in the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So what I can do is I can now find it. Actually, I'll find another category. Let's go Hudl New Zealand, and I want to look at our offensive rebounds. Okay, so there's one tag. If I want to put this into a presentation, I can come down to the timeline where you can see it down the bottom, and I will be, just catch up. I can right click and I can just go clip this tag. So all that's done is that's taken that tag and it's put it into my playlist builder. Right? So now I can go Hawks. I can come down to my custom feature. I want to look at all their switcher plays. I can quickly add all them to my playlist builder. And I also want to grab all our defensive shapes. Again, add to clips. And all it's done is it's already reworded them because we're taking them as tags. We can move them, we can put them in order, we can trim them, we can add them, we can adjust them. So this is the good thing around, you know, tagging is don't worry about getting the timings too right. When you put it into a presentation, you can refine that. Again, we can create a playlist. Let's call this team review versus Hawks. I can share it with my team, and I can go save playlist. So that's kind of the concept of where this tagging piece comes in. For you guys to kind of work with. Again, when you're sharing playlist, you add it to your athletes, you can type them in a little message, they get an automatic email, you know, so when you're actually creating the playlist, you can add a message and you can kind of, you know, guide players, watch this before Tuesday. I need you to review this, etc., etc. So it gives you a bit of an idea.
Simon, can you add tags to something after you've already tagged it initially? Like, so let's say, for example, that I tagged all my half-court offensive possessions, and then I wanted to go in and let's say I wanted to do something like know how many passes there were in the possession. And let's say I have categories like 1 pass, 2 passes, 3 or more passes. Could I then go in after the fact
Absolutely.
and add that in?
So can you see on the screen here, see how I've got my timeline down the bottom?
Yeah.
Right? And I've got sort of switch of play highlighted. Can you see to the right of that, I've got add tag manually.
Yeah.
So at any moment of the time, I can hit add tag and that will bring up that automatic tagging template. I can now add all my custom tags at a later date and we can go down that process. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, cool. So, you know, and that's it. And this just gives you a bit of an example of what we track. So this is using our inbuilt system. Again, you can tag all of the stuff yourself. This is what we will produce for you. And if you send games to Hudl Assist, again, this is what we'll be able to produce for you. So, you know, some pretty in-depth kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Where all this comes into fruition is the reports. So if you have a good, rich data set, you can come into reports in the reports tab, and we track all of your data. And you might, you know, look at things, for example, we might look at, what have I got here? We might look at numbers overall. So for us for the season, we break it down by period, by quarter. We might look at other games. So I just want to look at us for the last 5 games of the season. We do shot charts. So we can give you a shot chart for the season. We can give you a shot chart just versus the Hawks. We can potentially give you, you know, let's say all season, and I want to look at a shot chart versus players. And, you know, we can click on any one of these numbers and it'll show the video on behind it. I think this is the real cool one, the player one. You're doing player stats. You know, if you're doing this religious, we can have a shot chart for a player for a season. That's some powerful stuff. We also do run graphs. So again, by you guys tagging, you can click on any one of these numbers and it will automatically sync to the video and behind it. So points off turnovers, 29. Right. I didn't know we got 29 points off turnovers. And here they all are.
So you can go from the shot chart into
Yep.
watching all the clips.
Watching all those videos, and we can automatically build a playlist or put them into a playlist. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of the benefit of kind of building this rich data set. Just giving you guys an example of what's sort of there.
Yep. Awesome. And then you can also export the data set into Excel if you wanted to do your own Excel analysis.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Cool. So look, I'm just conscious of time, so I'm just going to dive into kind of this kind of sharing piece. I think this is where things get real interesting and real exciting around how we share video. You know, ways of sharing video. From our perspective, the way we see it, there's kind of 4 key ways you do it. You can do it online. So build a playlist, get them to watch it in their own time before training. You're looking at a one-on-one setting. So am I having one-on-one meetings? Am I having a chat to players before or after training one-on-one? Am I doing it in units? So am I in a position to split my team up in units? You know, your guards, your forwards, you know, however you want to do it. Or am I doing it in sort of your more historical classroom setting? So each one of these have pros and cons, you know. As much as we'd love to do one-on-one video reviews with ourselves, with time pool coaches, as much as a classroom setting can be really, really good, you know, there's pros and cons of having everyone in all room. Are players engaged in a classroom setting? So, you know, these are things to think about, and there's no one right answer and one golden bullet. I think as coaches, my challenge to you is think of this blended approach, of a mixed approach. And to give you an example is, if you split teams up into units, let's say you have 4 units, you work with 1 unit 15 minutes after every Tuesday training. Over the course of the month, you've got through a team, you know? So every Tuesday after training, you spend 15 minutes with the unit looking at a particular element of the game or video. And, you know, you're not working with everyone all the time, but you can slowly start to build in and have that sort of thing. So that's one example. You know, getting players to watch video in their own time and then delivering a classroom session. If players have seen video, they've watched it, they've analyzed it, they're kind of coming to that video presentation with their own thoughts. We can ask questions in that presentation. They're not seeing video for the first time. They're not going to go into their shell. They're not nervous about what they're going to see. They're not nervous because they're going to get called out because they had a bad game. They've got confidence. Man, there's some really good clips in this presentation, and we can kind of contribute. So yeah, just things to think about the way we share video. And Vince, I don't know what you guys are doing at the moment, or whether you have preference, or, you know, I just think it's this blended approach.
I mean, I think we have to probably differentiate between COVID-19 style and then normal everyday style. Obviously, COVID-19 style where everything's online, but then probably subdivided. You might do, you know, some one-on-one. I know some coaches have done some one-on-one stuff. I would say if we're just doing our normal coaching process, we definitely, you know, doing a variety of a blended style. Classrooms, what I've found is that the coaches who have access to a classroom through maybe a school, so like Gareth, you're probably more likely to do a classroom session than some, because you might have more access. I might be making an assumption, but you might have more access to your school, a classroom at your school. In contrast, you know, some of us, like I'll use my laptop on the sideline of training, after training or before training, and sit with a kid and show something on the laptop. I'll do that quite often. But it's really kind of what works, right? And there's not gonna be a single thing. So it's really, what we're really trying to do is figure out, well, what is actually the methodology that works for us, depending on what tools and equipment we have, and it's gonna be mixed.
I think the best advice of that is just know your players. Know your players, talk to your players, ask your players, send surveys to your players. What do you like? What do they respond to? And you'll soon figure out what works. And what works for one player might not work for another player, you know? And that's, as coaches, I think we just need to challenge ourselves on that. Cool. All right, so I'm just going to kind of finish with just a couple examples of engaging players. And this is just a couple of examples from other sports that I've seen work really well, that I've used in other presentations, but it's just to give you some real simple ideas of, again, during these COVID times, how we can engage players. So a few key bases. There are 3 key things that we know. One, we know video is an absolutely integral tool for learning, problem solving, and skill mastery. Fact, period, research, done. We know video is crucial. Okay, we know that. The second piece of the puzzle is we know some of the best players in the world consume huge amounts of video. MJ, you read any of his books, you're watching the documentary, he watches a huge amount of video. We know some of the best players in the world just really have a good in-depth understanding and enjoy watching video. The third piece of the puzzle is we live in a modern generation with modern athletes. The research tells us, 71% of athletes are watching at least 3 hours a day online of video. Granted, most of that might be TikTok, but they're still watching video. So if we know that video is really key for learning, we know that some of the best players in the world watch huge amounts of video, and we know that the modern player is consuming video of some form of context, how do we harness this? What do we do with it? And I think this is the question that, again, I don't have the answer. I've got some ideas and some suggestions, but hopefully does that kind of resonate with you guys? We know this, and it's definitely something that we need to think, all right, if I know that, how do we harness it? How do we wrestle with it? How do we engage players? So they're not watching TikTok, they're watching basketball. They're watching Chicago Bulls in 1992. They're watching us from last season. That's what we want them consuming. Does that sort of resonate, Vince? Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. And I guess, I think I'm just really curious to see what is some of the industry doing, particularly at the professional level. I think that I'm really interested to know the people who are really doing this very, very, very well, and what of those things work and make sense for us in our environment, knowing we have probably fewer resources and less time, but I think there's a collective will in our community to start doing more than we are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So the first one is just analyzing old games, right? Looking at old seasons, looking at, old games where you've played exceptionally well, games where you've played really poorly, and just going back and reviewing them. Why was this game so good? Why did we play so well? What was it? And trying to recapture that. So a real simple task, if you're lucky enough to have old games earlier in the season or of last year, is just set a task. So this is just an example of how we can create tasks using Hudl. Go find an element of the game. For example, in football, it might be goals. This might have been the best game of last year. As a coach, we can go in and we can just build a playlist of all the goals. The reason we're building a playlist is merely to create a task, all right? So I've come in here and I've created a playlist, taking me no time at all. From a basketball context, it might be a couple of great moves. Put it into a playlist, and then use this playlist to set your players a task. And for the purpose of this, all I've done is I've just created a note. This was a key game for us last season when it all came together. Your task, go back and watch this game and comment in the goals below what did we do in a 90-minute scenario that made us win this game. So the idea of this task is that players would actually come back. She'll come back here. They'll go watch the game. They'll come back, and under the goals, they'll use the comments tool and they'll post thoughts. They'll post ideas. And we're starting to build this collaboration in a playlist. And the goal would be that you've got 13 comments under each goal, or 14 comments under each play. I thought we did this really well, or I noticed we did this. And we're just using a playlist as an excuse to get a player to go watch an old game and then come back and feedback. And now you've got all this rich content in a playlist, and you might have a video presentation over this. You might have a Zoom call over this. Well, why did you post this comment? Oh, there's an interesting theme coming through. So a real simple task that takes us no time at all to put together. We haven't actually analyzed anything. We've merely just set a task and set our players to it, So that's just a real example that's used not only at the elite level, but at all levels, And you guys will have some really, really good games. So that's one example. Another example is to review best practice, NBA games, older age group games, national games, Tall Blacks games, anything you want. And even at the elite level, a lot of teams will do this as well, as go review teams that place higher than you in the league. Go look at the championship team. A lot of elite players will actually go back and look at the teams that won the league and go back at when they played you and actually think about, how did they break us down? What do we need to do to stop them moving forward? And again, as coaches, we can set simple tasks. Again, playlist of goals. All I've done is at a certain point, I've just used my notes tool, and I've just said, this is a game where we dominated last season. Your task is go to YouTube, type in this URL, watch the game and comment below what are we going to do that Brazil do that we can emulate. All right. So all we're doing is we're just setting a task and encouraging our players. Go watch Brazil. Go watch 30 minutes of Brazil on YouTube. What do they do that we can do? What do they emulate that we emulate? What do we like out of their game that we want to do? And again, the goal is that they'll come under this reply function, you'll have 13 or 14 comments. I like Brazil doing this, or I thought they did this really well. So again, it's just a simple task for us to set, takes us no time at all, set them out. By the end of next week, I want you to watch Game 7, Chicago Bulls versus the Pistons, when the Bulls lost it in the last quarter. What do they do? How do we stop that from happening? See what they come up with. You know, look, are 15 and 16, 17-year-old players going to respond to a task like that? I don't know. I have seen it work really well in the past, but it's just an idea of some of the stuff that we can do as coaches to set tasks. Questions on that? How do we feel about those things?
It makes me think about like turnovers. Where did that turnover come from? Or like a great shot. Where did that shot come from? From a team perspective, it also makes me think about individual player development. So like if there's someone who's really great at, say, the pick and roll, you can think about like, you know, pick and roll coverages and pick and roll reads, and how a player, like, why did a player make a certain decision that they did? What did they see in that situation? Something like that. You know, I was thinking about a post up, like a really great post up player gets the ball in the post, and, you know, let's watch them, let's study them. What do you notice about what so-and-so did on this particular play to get their shot? You know, whatever it may be, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So these are all things we can do. So look, there's a range of ideas out there. Again, every time you think of an idea, how can we make it player-centered would be my first question. Can we encourage our players to go find a player that they want to emulate? Is it a Larry Bird? Is it LeBron James? Is it a Kobe Bryant? You know, get them to send you the YouTube link. Can we upload it? Can we clip it? Can we get that into Hudl for them? So then they've got autonomy of wanting to emulate a player or break down a player that they aspire, or get them to find footage. So those are all things that you can do as well.
Yeah. Any comments from you guys on that stuff? Any questions or thoughts? Andrew?
So with the tagging, is it ever going to be likely that you can hotkey the tagging aspect of it?
Yes. So what you'll see is, actually, I'll just quickly share my screen. Bear with me. If I go back to this clip here, I play. Just going to fast forward. So can you see we've got these little B, M, J, K, L. So these are all predetermined hotkeys that we've actually chucked in. So yeah, we do have, it takes a bit to remember them. But yeah,
I can see it now.
Can you see them there, the little hotkeys, the M and the B?
Yeah, I'm just looking at my screen at the same time, just checking it's there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that should work. Hit me up if it doesn't. Again, if you really want to get into it, like one of the best ways, and you love using hotkeys, buy off Trade Me a cheap Bluetooth keyboard, use some little sticky notes and some little stickers, and actually color code a keyboard, and then you've got a coding keyboard that you use. Bluetooth that in, tag away. You know, you get a Bluetooth keyboard for $10-20. Put some sticky notes over the top of it, and then you've got all your hotkeys color coded there. So that's a good little tip as well.
Industry insider tip.
Yeah.
Other questions? Who else has a question? Yep. Okay, Andrew.
With the custom tags, can you make them A, so they always stay there, and B, can you hotkey them?
You can't hotkey them. They should always stay there. So each time you hit custom, you can either type a new one or have your predetermined set list. The challenge that you've got is we can't delete custom tags at the moment. So if you are making a whole heap of custom tags and you want to rephrase them or reword them, get in touch with us. We just have to go into the back end and just delete the custom tags for you to kind of recreate. But yeah, like what we recommend is, find a piece of training video for 5 minutes, add all of your potential custom tags. They might not have to relate to the game, but just essentially fake tag 5 minutes of video. So all your custom tags sit in there, and Vince, this might be something you do to predetermine this is what we want.
Yeah.
So when a coach goes in, all those predetermined custom tags will appear.
Yeah. Cool. That's good. Others? Good?
Yeah, Simon, can you find a way for Vince to pay for Hudl Assist?
We're working on it, buddy. We're working on it.
We do have a small number of Hudl Assist credits. So we can, if you want some Hudl Assist credits, we do have some. We just don't have a lot. But we have some. Yeah.
Is it enough for the whole season?
Not for every season, for every game, for every team. But you might get a handful. You could maybe get a handful.
It's good training, Gareth. It's good training.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, Gareth, I think and this is where I personally think look, we can do Hudl Assist, but to me, this is manager, assistant coach, or even just an eager student or intern. I feel like there are people out there who want to be a part of a team, who aren't necessarily players, who might be hungry to get into some of this stuff. I've been thinking about us developing kind of a volunteer role within Harbour to do some of this kind of stuff, because I want to go back and do historical games. I like to do games, but I don't always have the time to do them. So, I think this could be a role that we can create, and we use the Hudl Assist credits when we generally can't do the games.
I think it'd be a good idea to use Hudl Assist in tournament play, crossovers to semis, save them for that crucial time. Yeah. But then again, Simon, is it still taking overnight to get it, or what's the time frame on it?
So to give you an idea, we work one time zone ahead. So our time zone, our Hudl Assist team are based in Asia. So they're sort of 6 hours, 7 hours behind us. So typically, the best we've seen, we can kind of hit 6 to 8 hours. Typically, we're hitting around 12 to 14 hours. Worst case scenario, if the American season's involved and it's a weekend game, you might be up to 20, 22 hours. It'll never be longer than 24. I think most of the NBL and WBC games last year, on average, I think was about 12 to 14 hours. But typically it's overnight.
It's still a huge improvement from 2 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's getting better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say in an ideal world, I personally think this is the assistant coach's role. And particularly when you're away at tournaments or you're doing that kind of thing, the assistant coach contributes by making sure the video is captured, making sure the video is uploaded, going through and doing the analysis, and working from the instruction of the head coach, what the head coach wants, and building a lot of these things. That's what we're seeing. That's what we see certainly in the US at college levels. I think in New Zealand teams, that was always my role on New Zealand teams when I coached. I was the person who did that. So that's where I think it would be a cool way for us. And the thing is, we have the resource. As long as we get the game online, it's really just about finding the person who's willing to learn the craft and spend the time doing it.
And I hope, over time we can keep working with Harbour and at Easter tournaments, at nationals, and this. It's just making sure that there's some good internet infrastructure there. We've done a lot at secondary school nationals where we have a suite set up, where we've got some high-speed internet for this very, very reason. So, it is getting better and better, and it's just keep conversations happening. That's all that we ask, and we're here to help,
Yeah. Other questions? Cool. Andrew, yes.
Just while you're here, Jody, because obviously WBC and then national level, what are the key sort of outside the norm tags would you look for to clip?
Oh, that wasn't my specific role and you put me on the spot. But basically, we would look at, this stuff is, Simon's given a massive, real detail thing, but in tournament play, you don't have time to go over the extensive part of it. So basically, we look at where the shots are coming from. And in my experience, it's more around 80% of us. So resonate with the 1 negative, 3 positive video clips because, we and also the association with who we show because of one particular player. But it's more, outside the box. It's we only really spend 20% on the other team, in my experience, Andrew. So it's more around what style of defense they're playing, where they're trying to stop us, and so we'd probably tag where we turn the ball, our turnovers, so not really out of the box, and where they're getting their shots from.
Yeah, I think that the built-in tags are quite good as a basic, but I was thinking about that as well, Andrew. Like, live ball turnovers versus dead ball turnovers is one thing that actually really is really, really important. I also think about the kind, like, I think a lot about the actions. So one thing that
transition to half court as well.
Yeah.
Both offense and defense. I think those are
I
quite
also feel like it's where you put your, energy and time. And so everything that you do in technology, and like listening to Simon go through all this stuff, a lot of it applies to you as a coach. So you're taking on, remember, the kids don't have time, or our athletes don't have the time that we have as coaches. Even though our time is limited, they're going to see a videotape for the first time in tournament. And so the full load of Hudl is out of season, or in the weekends, or big reviews. So if we're going to put your emphasis, because you can't cover everything, and then what is it? Are you going to make them the student of the game? Hand it over. We're going to there's lots of things to cover off. Like Simon's given us like the whole smorgasbord, and then as a coach you'll use what you need to, and then what's most important to it. I mean, see, if me and Vince were using it to break down Harbour, right, Vince, we would say these are the things we want our coaches to learn. Mm-hmm. Now, if me and you are using, Andrew, obviously around my team or your team, what are the specific things? Like, we'll use it in different ways all the time. And then the generalized stuff, the big picture, like Simon covered, we can use the video as a team, one-on-ones, classroom. So you would use what it offers, relevant to what the situation is. But then all the analytical stuff, though, that's really around right now, around us coaches having these discussions. If you brought kids into it, we're talking age groups, and then you'd have to mature them into that time frame of learning how to use video to enhance their game as a student as well. I mean, for me, I wouldn't give them a lot because of the overload that they've got. But we could talk about it in depth, and then when they see it, you get the one or two that are analytical to the max and watch it for hours and hours and hours, but you wouldn't get the majority. But we could change that over a, 2-3 year period, where these are the kinds of things we want at the under 19 level, but at under 15s, we want our principles just covered off, and then they can cut their own tape covering off those principles, those 3 things, or our philosophies.
I would add one thing, just one last thing to that. When we were in Dallas with the 19 boys last year, our basic process, and just a couple of things. One was, so Sean Murphy's brother videoed the games for us from the sideline in the iPad app. When we got back to the hotel, automatically upload. So within, not very long, we've got the game. Assistant coach watches the game. So I watch the game first. And after I've watched the game and clipped things and talked to Matt about it, we put together an initial playlist. Now for us, we didn't do a playlist of every game after every game. We waited until we found the moment when we absolutely needed to have a conversation about video that was really in depth. And there were maybe 4 or 5 of those over 2 weeks. One of them was specifically an issue that we saw repeating over games, which was fouling on dribble penetration. So we were adjusting to American refs. We weren't doing a good job of sliding and staying in front, too much hands. We showed them 5 or 6 clips of us doing that. And we showed 5 or 6 clips just so that they got the idea. And then we showed about 10 clips of us doing it well, after, in the moments that we did. And that had a conversation. And that was the point of emphasis. Like, that was something we knew we needed to make adjustments to. And that really transformed our whole entire experience. but we were very selective and intentional about it. The other thing we did was after we had all those conversations, we then gave everyone access to the games to watch on their own. And so if a guy's going to bed at night, they could watch the game on their own. Hey, if you guys see something, let us know. And then there's both. So we're not giving them all of the analysis, but we're giving them the opportunity to conduct their own analysis while also hearing our analysis.
And to throw in my 2 cents there, Jody, I completely agree. And I think, Joe, you probably go through your teams and you'll remember this is, we kind of talk about this third rule. Majority of coaches we talk about third rule. A third of your players will be sponges. They'll want to watch everything. They'll be analytical.
Yeah.
A third of your players will be on a need-to-know basis. Tell them what to watch and they'll watch it. Present something to them and they'll take it on board, right? And then a third of your players, for whatever reason, just could not care. Are just not engaged. Just don't really give a rat's. And this kind of third rule we talk about. So we've got to think about, right, well, how do we harness this top third? What can we do to encourage them or promote them? And then this other third, where do we be really selective and really identify what we're going to show them and when we're going to show them? Because, it's going to have little impacts. We want to be meaningful.
Yeah.
The last piece of puzzle that I'll give, if you really want to impact with video, the best way to do it again is little, but trend analysis. Is that rather than kind of doing something after every game, if you can have something and you can say to a player, here's us not doing it 3 weeks ago, not doing it 2 weeks ago, and not doing it last week. That has impact. Yeah. That's not a one-off. You can't argue with trend analysis. So if you can be, as coaches, we've got the time, but be very selective. Now, you might not use these moments, but if you can build up examples over a 2 to 3 week period and just show that one theme in that one clip to a player, that has impact. You can't argue with that. That is objective data that can help change athlete behavior. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents.
Yeah, that's cool.
I am conscious of time, Simon. We probably need to probably wrap up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, look, that's pretty much it from me, guys. So look, I am around. Vince has got my details. We'll send out some posting resources. If anyone wants a phone call, a chat, a yarn, wants to learn more, I'm more than happy to talk to anyone. And Vince, thanks for having me on board, and hopefully this was beneficial.
Yeah, awesome. And thanks Jody, for jumping
Vince.
in. Yeah, thank
no
you.
Worries.
Yeah,
thank
anyone
you.
have any last
Thank you very
comments?
much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Cool. Cool. All right. Hey, thanks, Simon. Really appreciate your time. And we will definitely be putting to use all of this content. I've got a couple things that I need to start jumping into, but yeah, thanks, guys. And we'll be uploading this to people who couldn't, uploading this to YouTube for people who couldn't have attended. So let them know.
Perfect. Cheers, guys. Thanks.